everyone, welcome to the Jinni Key Q&A. We're gonna have so much fun talking about this book and I'm gonna answer all your questions, hopefully. I feel like I should be holding this for this announcement. This book comes out tomorrow. The Jinni Key is going to be out in the world December 3rd and I can't wait because you guys, I worked so hard on this book. So we're gonna talk about 30 questions that you guys have that you sent to me over on Instagram. I'm gonna pop them on the screen and I'm gonna try to answer all of them if I can go fast enough. So let's dive in. All right, so I took a screenshot of all the questions on Instagram. Anna Loer Book says, how many POVs does it have? So how many points of view does it have? In the Jinni Key, there's more. I think in the Stolen Kingdom, I shouldn't say I think. I know that in the Stolen Kingdom, there's Arie and Kadin. And then in the Jinni Key, I still have a little bit of those two actually. And I also have Rena she's about 2/3, I guess, because it's kind of her story. I've never done the math, but I think that's about right. All right, Sarah Anwar 59 says, would you recommend this for other fantasy lovers or other readers too? I would recommend it to everybody. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I hope that everybody would like it. There is a magical element, which is the first time I've ever done that, and it was really fun to write. But I do think that like the characters are still going to have like life lessons that anybody would relate to. All right, Mary Walk 1, I hope I'm saying this right, said, what was your favorite part of writing this book? I was going to be snarky and say when it's done, when it was over, but that's horrible. Although that is a really good feeling. I don't mean that in like a I hate writing kind of way. I mean it more in a it feels so good to have a finished book in your hand and to be like, I made this. I guess it's not my favorite part because I always see things that I want to fix. I'm always like, every time I reread it, I'm like, I should take those words out. That was too telly. You know, this could have been better this way. That word was too repetitive, things like that. So I guess I would say actually the first draft was my favorite part because there's so much freedom for me in a first draft because it's like nobody's ever gonna see it. It's very freeing to be like, I'm just gonna write nonsense on the page and I'll figure it out later. This next one is from Lexi Lou Payne 03. What is the author's sanctioned ship name for Arie and Kadin? And I'm sorry, I'm giggling. Kadari, Arden, Carrie. I actually really like Arden. That is kind of cool. So I'm gonna go with that. I have never thought about that before, but I love it. You guys can do whatever you want. I'm one of those authors who like kind of enjoys when people put their own spin on things. And so like, I'm sure that weirds other people out. And I do have a glossary in the back of each book for like how to say the different names so that you can like sound them out and figure out how to say it because I know that people say them all differently. All that to say, I don't mind when people make up their own. I kind of enjoy it. I kind of enjoy hearing your take on the characters that were in my head. Like that's just crazy to me. Author Anne McTavish says, in what ways was writing this sequel easier and or harder than writing Pearl's Number? So if you guys don't know, Pearl's Number, which is also right here, is the second book in my first series, the Number series. First of all, I would say writing a second book in a series is way harder. You have the characters already figured out for the most part. I brought in new characters, but for the most part, you have the world sort of figured out, although I expanded on that too. But I think the hardest thing by far is making sure you don't repeat the same elements of the first story because that's a big deal. You don't want to be giving readers just a rehash of the same story over and over and over again. You want to give them something new that surprises them, right? I don't know if this is really answering the question, but the other thing that I did with both the Jinni Key and Pearl's Number was I completely rewrote the second half. I think I kind of pantsed my way to the ending, although in the Jinni Key I definitely outlined more. And I think in Pearl's Number I did too, but I just sort of pantsed it and like was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's try it and see what happens. And it didn't work for either of them. And so both of those had a massive rewrite, which I never did with the first two books. Like the first two books were so solid in my mind and I knew the ending. And then both of these had really crappy endings the first time around. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what they were, but it was not good. It was just, it fell flat. And with the Jinni Key, to answer your question finally, I would say it was harder because I didn't just rewrite the ending once, but I had to like keep tweaking it and keep rewriting it. And I added an epilogue that I never expected to add, and just all these things. And I added a lot to the beginning. It was definitely harder because The Jinni Key is just the hardest book that I've ever had to write to date. And I don't know why, but that's how I feel about it. Author Ingrid Nordley says, knowing you worked hard on revising, did you learn anything new about revision/edit? So I actually had to turn the camera off and like sit and think about this one. This is a good question. But I came up with 2 things. So first of all, I'm gonna pull this down and show you something that I've never shown people before. But this is my first draft. So this is the finished book. This is the first draft. I actually tried something that I'd never tried before since I have all 4 covers for the series. I printed it as a first draft. So what I did is, as I read it, I made a lot of notes, which you could probably see here, just like timelines and like editing to-dos and things like that. So the cool thing about this, the reason I tried it was just to see if it worked. But what I usually do in edits is I do what I call a fast read-through edit after the first draft. So I have a whole video on editing. I'll link it below in case you're curious. It's kind of older, but I think I generally still do most of the things that I talk about in there. And so what I like to do is I like to step away from the first draft, kind of forget about it, and then I like to print out a copy so that you're seeing it in a different format versus on the computer, and read through the entire thing as fast as I can, thus the fast read through name, and see like what is going on, like the big picture. Where are the plot holes? Because they can kind of stand out if you read it fast, whereas if you're writing it slow over months, you don't even realize they're there. I've always done the fast read through and printed it out, but usually I just use the printer at our house, print the whole thing that way, and regular paper. The cool thing about this method was that it actually helped me to keep going, because normally when I'm reading on the printer paper, I tend to start writing in the margins and I tend to start like rewriting it, and like there's so many notes and I just slow way down. But reading it in book format just helped me to keep going. Like I would make a tiny note and then I'd be like, all right, let's keep going, let's read this whole bad boy and get it done. So like you guys saw, I have a lot of notes still, but this is nothing compared to what I used to write on the Microsoft Word pages. And then the other thing that I learned, which I've learned before, but I feel like I really learned it with this book during edits, was to not just go with your first idea, if that makes sense. Like to push yourself to try other things. So like I'll come up with a solution to a plot hole and I almost went and wrote it, and then I was like, well, but let's think on this. Let's kind of like deliberate and see what else there is. And I came up with another idea and it was okay, and another idea and it was all right. And then like the 4th or 5th idea, it was like, ooh, that's the one. That is what I should do. And I just think that it really made the story better, because it was honestly a little bit predictable in the first draft. And you know, maybe some things still are, because there are tropes in all genres that you can predict little things, but there's a lot that I hope will not be predictable as well. Oh, I lied. There's actually gonna be 31 things, because there was also a comment on my Instagram post that I wanted to answer. So I hope I'm saying this right. Nev Creates said, how did you push through those challenges? Was there a particular fond, memorable moment during writing or revising it? So this is just referencing how I was talking about how this is the hardest book that I've ever written. And I guess I would say what I've said a few times already. I even put this in the acknowledgements, which is through prayer and amazing people who stood by me and like helped me figure this out. I guess to answer the second question, a particular fond memorable moment was working with both of my CPs, my critique partners, Brittany Wang and Jessie Elliott. It was just so encouraging, because I honestly would have given up if they hadn't helped me. Like, you guys don't even know. Every first draft is garbage. So I don't think that I'm trashing the book to say that. I don't think it's garbage now. I think it's really good. And I think that those 2 ladies were instrumental in making it what it is. I was just so like in my own head about it, and I was like, I just don't know. Being able to run ideas by them and have 2 people who read it and were like, this is what's working, this is what's not working, that was just so helpful, and I am very, very thankful for that. Okay, so this next question is from Emmett1989, which is Timmy, and Timmy says, who is your ultimate favorite character from the entire series? I actually like Kadin and Gideon best. I like both of them. I like Arie too, and Rena and Bosch. Anyway, I would say Kadin was really cool to write because every time that I write him, I am picturing Ocean's 11 and the Brad Pitt character. And it's just really fun to create that Ocean's 11 crew vibe and create like a character who's he's quiet, he's thoughtful, he's different than me. I don't know, Kadin is just really fun to write. And then Gideon is fun to write in a very different way because he is just so unique. And I feel like out of all the characters, he is the one who comes easiest to me. All right, this is another question from Timmy. She says, would you rather be a Jinni, a mermaid, or a gifted, I think she means a gifted human, in your story's world? And so I had to think about this too, because the mermaid culture is not very pleasant. Like, they're kind of an abrasive culture and you have to have thick skin, and I don't have thick skin really, so I would not enjoy that. And being a gifted human currently is kind of taboo in this world, and so that doesn't sound very fun either, to kind of be like always worried that somebody's gonna try to kill you. So I would rather be a Jinni. They seem to have it the best. The next question is from Martin, and he says, how many times did it make you cry? In a good way, of course. I don't really cry at my writing. I know that a lot of people do. I think it's just a personality thing. Like, it depends on who you are. Like, only other stories can make me cry, but I don't think, cried at my own. I don't think. Sorry. Author Alira Barnes says, how long did it take to write it? I actually had to go look this up because you guys know I'm horrible with dates, but the good news is that every single day that I write, if I write anything new, I email it to myself because I'm kind of paranoid about losing work, and I've lost work like way back in the past, a few thousand words. And so now, at the end of every writing day, I email it to myself. It's also good copyright protection. So I pulled up my email and I wrote down the dates to share. I'm going to talk about this more in tomorrow's video because I want to share my self-publishing a full novel from start to finish, and I want to use the Jinni key as an example. But I actually wrote a couple paragraphs for book 2 and book 3 on October 1st of 2018. And then I have like 2 or 3 other days in October where I sent myself the book, and I'd probably written very little more, but I was just kind of feeling it out. And then this is the novel that I wrote for NaNoWriMo 2018. So I wrote it all of November. That was my Nano novel, but I don't remember. I know I made 50K, but I think I sort of dropped it, I think, if I remember right. Now, I don't have any like documentation on how I was feeling, so I don't remember that, but I don't have any like emails to myself for the book, like hardly at all in December. And then I think right around the very end of December, I started emailing myself, and it says like the very last email that I have in the subject line, I wrote finished first draft, and that email was on January 1st of 2019. So from October 1st to January 1st was my drafting the first draft. Author Bells Alark 10, I hope I'm saying that right, says, how do you get through the comparison game? Seriously, I've been struggling with it, and there's no other questions in there, so I'm not sure what else they said because Instagram cuts you off. So I'm sorry, I don't know what else came with that. I don't see any other questions. Okay, first of all, you're not alone. I think everybody struggles with the comparison game, as you call it, but I don't think it's healthy. I think that when we do this, we tend to minimize what we're going through and what we've accomplished. And I think it's a lie from the devil that you have to be somebody else, because you don't have to be somebody else. You have to be you, and what you have to bring to the table is something that nobody else has to offer. So if you're always comparing, you're gonna also find yourself always copying, and I don't think that is healthy or fun or at all enjoyable as a writer. So I would really encourage you guys not to compare. I've actually done a couple videos on this, so I'm gonna link both of them below for you, but just know that when you're comparing to somebody's highlight reel, and you're only seeing the good things, because people don't generally share the bad things, although sometimes I try to, just to be like, hey, it's not all sunshine and rainbows over here. Like, it looks like it, but it's not. I'm gonna say something that's not necessarily easy, but it's simple, and that is stop it. Like, do not let yourself do it. And I talk about this in my other videos. You need to cut those thoughts off. You don't want to let them percolate or marinate or whatever the word is, where you just dwell on them and you just sit and think and think and think about them and compare, that's not helping you. And you can stop. Like, you have control over your own mind. You can turn those thoughts off. You can start catching them. It's about retraining the way that you think. I think everybody compares sometimes. I'm still guilty of it. I think we can fall back onto it very easily, but you can continue to catch yourself and say, stop it, this is not okay. And like, have that awareness, like, I'm not gonna let myself do this because it's crippling. It's damaging to your writing process. You will not become a better writer by comparing. It will make you stop writing. It will make you stop being excited about writing when you have an amazing story to share that's all your own, in your own voice. So you need to keep doing you. I'm gonna get off my soapbox here and keep going because I'm losing my voice because I was recently sick, so let's keep going. I have one more question from Timmy. She says, do you resonate on personality, like on a personal level, with any of the characters? I thought about this one, and then I realized that honestly, the simple answer is that because I'm writing them all, I have a little bit of myself in each of them. Like, I don't know how to avoid that. So that's the short answer. I tried not to do what they call a self-insert. And I wrote Arie and Rena and Kadin and Gideon as all their own person, but they probably all have little pieces of me. All right, there's another question from Martin. He says, which book is next? And that is The Cursed Hunter. And in just a couple days, I will be sharing a cover reveal for that. So stay tuned for all the details on The Cursed Hunter. Andrea Books 98 says, will there be any cool horse moments? And the short answer is, I don't know if they're cool, but there are some funny horse moments, definitely. AMG Plans says, do you know how the series ends? So I kind of mentioned that to you guys that I am a bit of a pantser, but I also do plot, and I use the Save the Cat Writes a Novel beat sheet. So I have all 4 books planned out, and I have almost an ending. I still haven't written it, but it's outlined. I have an idea of what I want it to be, but I think I'm still too scared to flesh it out. It's just sort of overwhelming to me, so I haven't done it yet, and that's so sad because I meant to be done in March and it's December. I do know how it ends. I just don't know, like, word by word, if that makes sense. Courtney Corboy says, I don't have a question. I just want you to know I'm excited. Yay. Thank you, Courtney. I'm excited too. AMG Plan says, are you adjusting your dates because the Jinni key has given you some grief? Yeah. So I answered this one on Instagram as well, but I thought it was worth answering here on YouTube because I have to own up to it. I don't think I can do a fast release, and maybe I'll do a video on what fast releases are and explain this more, but the short story is I wanted to release all the books like every 3 months or less. I wanted them to just like be coming out super fast, and pretty much almost all of them be in 2019. The Stolen Kingdom was stressful, but I was feeling pretty good about it because I'd spent the most time on that. And then I set up the Jinni key for 3 months after, December 3rd, after August 20th. That's when it kind of hit me. I'm like, this is so stupid. What am I doing with my life? This is not gonna work. And so I have never pushed. That's probably why this book was so hard, is because I had to push myself so hard. And I actually, if I'm being really honest with you guys, I don't want to write right now. Like, I just want to break. I just want to go on vacation and be done. I have zero desire to write anything, which is not good when you're a full-time author. I think I knew like 1 to 2 months ago. Again, I'm horrible with dates, so let's not even pretend that I know how long it was ago. But I just, a while ago, I was like talking to my husband and I said, I don't think I can do this. He's like, yeah, I know you're very frustrated with the timeline, and he could see clearly that this deadline wasn't working, but I had to come to terms with it myself and be like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to do a fast release because I need to give these books what they deserve, but I also need to give myself what I deserve. Like, I think this book is amazing and I put in the time to make it amazing, so it's not that they won't be quality, but I was driving myself insane over it, and just mentally, physically, emotionally was so frustrated all the time, and so much went wrong. And so all that to say, like, I probably could keep going and put out quality for a certain amount of time, but it's more about the mentally and physically and emotionally, that side of things. I can't keep going at this pace. It's just not doable. Like, I would go crazy. So instead of 3 months, I am going to try 6 months and double it, and that's my goal. So I will be revealing the release date for The Cursed Hunter very soon. This one's not a question. I didn't realize it till I read it, but Martin says, "You're such an amazing author. I don't want spoilers." I will try, Martin, not to give spoilers. I am the spoiler queen though, but I will try not to. Lexi Lou Payne says, "Who's your favorite character, and are you going to kill many of your darlings?" Please don't. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I kind of talked about favorite character already, but I will address the, are you going to kill many of your darlings? I am not going to tell you, because spoilers, about killing anybody, but that whole phrase of kill your darlings in writing can reference more than just characters. It can reference your plot and your writing style and your choices for plot twists and scenes and chapters and all that. So actually I did kill a lot of darlings. If you're talking about that, I killed the entire second half of the book. I killed the entire like outline pretty much. Like, there's very little that lasted actually from the first draft to the final draft. So I killed a lot. I killed plot twists. I killed choices about the magic system. I killed a lot of darlings, and it was very hard, but I'm very thankful that I did it. And so weirdly enough, like, aside from talking about actually killing characters, killing your darlings, the things that you're attached to when you're writing, killing those extra words and deleting anything that doesn't improve the story is so worth it. And I think it was made it a better story. I'm gonna move on. Shannon AJ says, "How do you get started writing the series?" I don't know if it's how do you, like kind of like teaching, or how did you, like my story, but I'm gonna talk about my story more tomorrow. But I started with outlining, and I used the Save the Cat Writes a Novel beat sheet, and I started with my favorite fairy tales, and then when some of those didn't work, I went to my like next favorite fairy tales, which leads to Timmy's question. She has another question here. Why did you choose these 4 fairy tales to retell, and why not others? The Aladdin one I've talked about before, and why I started with that story, and it came from the Jinn and all that. So Aladdin was the first one, and then I wanted to do all of my favorites. So my ultimate favorite is Beauty and the Beast, and The Little Mermaid is also a favorite. And then also Pocahontas is a huge one. I used to dress up like Pocahontas as a kid, side note. And Mulan is another favorite. I used to go around singing her song. I love that song. I was envisioning a 4-book series, and I'll explain more about that in tomorrow's video, but long story short, I was trying to force it, and I was like plotting out the story as a whole, like as like one big story, and I could not get Pocahontas to fit, and then I did Mulan next, I think. Again, my memory, but it was one of those two, and I think it was Pocahontas was the one I really wanted to make work, because that's definitely my favorite, and then Mulan is like second favorite, and so I could not get either of those to work. So then I remember I was like, well, let me plug in some other stories. And I tried Sleeping Beauty, and I wasn't thinking that it was gonna work. I can't remember what else I tried, but it was like, okay, what does Sleeping Beauty have for character-wise that would jive with the characters I already have? Because it needs to flow, it needs to be natural. And so I realized Sleeping Beauty has an evil fairy, that Beauty and the Beast also has an evil fairy, and that those could be the same character in my world, and some other characters started to mesh and jive that I won't tell you because spoilers, but it was just perfect. So as soon as I started plugging Sleeping Beauty in to the rest of my world, I was like, that's the one. That's perfect. It totally fits. All right, Kylie Writes Books says, what's your favorite scene and why? I am going to say it's in the middle of the book, so I don't want to give you any spoilers, but it is a moment, and not a moment, really a few chapters between Gideon and Rena. I can't say any more without spoiling it. I have to stop myself. But the reason that it's my favorite is because it came so naturally. I barely rewrote it ever. Like that's pretty much the only thing in the book that remained from the first draft is like 3 chapters in the middle. Okay, Joshua Reed Wright says, what is it about the specific fairy tales for your series that drew you in? So this is good. This is kind of an overlapping question from the others. So the short answer is I wanted my favorites. I was definitely pulling in my favorites. Amber Rotzi, I don't know if I'm saying that right. She says, you mentioned feeling extremely frustrated with this one. What kept you going? I kind of talked about this a little bit already, just with praying over it and being like, what do I do? And talking to people who were able to help me. And honestly, the other thing that kept me going is just that once I start something, I don't quit. And so I was like, I can't give up. I already put it on pre-order. Actually, that's probably the truth, is that once I had it on pre-order, everyone was like, well, you could change the pre-order if you wanted to. I'm like, no. I'm very stubborn. I'm like, no. I set it up for pre-order. I am going to make this December 3rd deadline if it kills me. And it almost did. Meg Marie Cuz says, how did you decide to start the series? Did it originate with the Jinni or something else? And so again, I've talked about this. I might link the video below where I talk about like how the story started, and I did a tag for that. But the very short version is that my husband was making fun of Disney, the Aladdin's Disney, and the genie, where he was like, did you know genie means the devil in Farsi? He's like, it means Jinni. And so he likes to make fun. I like to do research. So I was like, I'm gonna challenge that. And I looked it up, and the website that I read was talking about how it means they're like a supernatural creature that could be either good or evil. And that just kind of made me think of angels and demons, and it just triggered this whole vision of a world with like these supernatural creatures that could be either good or evil. And that's how it started. I don't know how to say this handle, so I'm just gonna say Lisa. Lisa says, not really a question, but your videos have been so helpful to me during my journey. Thank you, Lisa. I'm so glad. Wicked Vampa says, will the same characters be around, or is it more centered around Rena? That is a really good question. They will still be around. Arie and Kadin both have very important roles in this story, but Rena does have, I don't want to say the majority, I would say like half of the chapters are hers, and she has, it is her story, but Arie and Kadin also have a very important role. Renee Dugan Writing said, did you watch the Little Mermaid live this week for research? And I didn't know about it. I'm so sad. I try not to watch anything that's going to influence me because I don't want to steal somebody's ideas. So actually, this is super random, but I'm very excited to go. I have on Goodreads a list of books with Jinni in them, and as soon as the series is done, I'm very excited to go read all of them. There's only like 7, but I'm making myself wait because I don't want to steal any ideas. I don't want to copy anything. But yeah, I'm excited. All right, 2 questions left, guys. Joshua Reed Wright says, is the retelling based on the original tale? And yes. I was very careful to avoid Disney because there's a lot of copyright issues and like legal stuff that you don't want to get into with retelling something from Disney, because Disney is retelling it, but they're putting their own spin on it and their own thing. So I went back to the originals for all the stories, and I was very, very careful as much as possible to avoid retelling anything from Disney. I'm scared I'm gonna butcher this handle as well, so I'm just gonna say Lena says, when will you publish The Cursed Hunter? What stage are you on with it now? Edits, beta reading, etc. Okay, so I am very, very excited. I've already filmed the video of the cover reveal that I'm gonna share with you in just a couple days for The Cursed Hunter, where I'm gonna share a lot more about the story. But I will share the release date with you now, and that is June 30th of 2020. So yeah, basically 6 months, like I said, after. That was probably kind of easy to predict. I actually put up the pre-order because I wanted to put it in the back of the Jinni key. So the pre-order for book 3 is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere. I will be revealing the cover in just a few days, so that's a good plug to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when I have a video, because it'll let you know. Tomorrow I'm super excited to talk about the entire journey of publishing the Jinni key for release day. Can't believe it's coming up tomorrow. That's just crazy. So if you want to pre-order and you haven't already, the link is below, or you know, anytime after that, you can just go buy it. I hope you guys are gonna like it. I'm extremely nervous about it, but if you want to know what other people are saying, there's already reviews on Goodreads, and shortly I hope there will be reviews on Amazon as well, so you can go check out what people are saying. And I hope you like it. I worked so hard on this story, so hard on it, and I would keep working on it if I could, but I can't because it's now out in the world as of tomorrow. So I hope you like it. I'm gonna stop myself. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.